Okay, morning everybody. We are going to complete Pesukei Dezimra today, and we're going to move to the next unit, which is the Shema unit. But I realized a couple of things that last week I kind of like went through very, very quickly, and we didn't have a chance to really look at a couple of things which I think are important. So, with your permission, I'm going to go back to page 78. Today we're in the Black Art Scroll Siddur. And we've mentioned that the song at the sea, which we include as kind of like the closing phrase or this closing prayer that we have in Pesukei Dezimra in that unit, is a later addition to the unit. And the rationale behind that was actually two main reasons, because Pesukei Dezimra is supposed to be a form of Hallel, and every form of Hallel includes the theme of the Exodus, and Pesukei Dezimra do not have that theme, so therefore the Song of the Sea does include that. And also the other rationale, the other reason was, how can you have a whole unit dedicated to praising God and through songs without including the greatest song in the Bible? So these are the two main reasons why it was included. It was included later. So this is why we see it only later in liturgy. So for example, if you look at the Rambam, it's not part of his tefillah, etc. A couple of interesting points, at least I think interesting points, about Shirat Hayam. So there's a very famous midrash, maybe you've heard it, that deals with that question, as Yashir Moshe Uvnei Israel. Okay, so then, how to translate it? There, Moses and the children of Israel, well, here they did that, chose to sing. They did that in the past tense. But Yashir is in the future tense. Right? Shar is in the past tense. Yashir is in the future tense. Which brings a lot of interpretations. For example, here the footnote, the article said, then chose to sing rather than shall, sang. The Torah uses the verb yashir, literally will sing. In the simple sense, the verse means that upon seeing the miracle, the people decided that they would sing. Or according to the Midrash, the verb implies the principle that God will bring the dead back to life in messianic times, and then they will sing God's praises once again. Okay, so there you have the two interpretations for that choice of in the future tense rather than using the past tense. Okay. There's one interesting word. If you look 1, 2, 3, fourth line of the Shirat Hayam, it says Ze Eli ve'anvehu. Here, the English, the article translates God is my might and my praise. I don't know. Oh, this is my God, and I will build him a sanctuary, the God of my father, and I will exalt him. Okay, so when the word anvehu is, there are two main interpretations for that word. One interpretation is what the art scroll took. It's from the word naveh. Naveh, that means a particular place. That means I will, I will build a naveh, I will build a temple for God. So it comes from the word naveh. However, according to a different interpretation, the word ve'anvehu is a compound word, which is ani vahu. Anvehu, ani vahu. Okay? Which means me and him with a capital H. So what does it mean? It means, wait, before that actually. Ve'anvehu is the classic interpretation is ve'anvehu from the word noi, beauty. It means I will exalt God, I will make his name beautiful, like Nava. Okay, same shorish, noi. That means, and from that, by the way, the rabbis learned the concept of hidur mitzvah, beautifying a mitzvah. Right? If I have a mitzvah, I need to buy a lulav and etrog. Just making this up, right? So I can buy a kosher lulav and etrog, but most people try, if possible, in case there's like a variety. So what do? You choose the one that is not only kosher, but the one that you like, you think is beautiful. Okay? And the whole pedagogical idea behind that, if you have something that you think is beautiful, attractive, you're going to make the mitzvah in a better way. Right? We all understand that. If I have a beautiful, I'm not into that, but a beautiful, super cool, whatever car, I'm going to enjoy driving more if I have like a car that just gets me from one place to the other. Right? If I have it goes for everything in life. Oh, that goes without saying. I'm talking about even like things, right? You know, if I have like some people say like, you know, if I have like really cool sporting outfit, there's a better chance I'm actually gonna use them and go to the gym or do whatever. Yeah, etc., etc., etc. Okay, we all like nice things. So from that, the word ve'anveu also implies noi. Okay, but going back to what I started to say, there's also another interpretation. That's the Gra, the Gaon of Vilna. It says it's a compound word, which means ani vahu, me and him. What does it mean? It means there's a whole theological idea behind that. It means that we partner with God. And if we partner with God, it means we need to do things the way, with those guidelines, let's call it. Right? If you have two partners in a business, then both of them have to operate according to the same guidelines. Right? If you have like certain guidelines and say, okay, fine, these are, you know, based on those guidelines, we're going to take this client, but we're not going to take this client. Just an example, right? You can't have different. So if you partner with God, ani vehu, me and him, it means I have to act in a godly way, whatever that means to you at this point. I have to do things in that way. I have to, so if God is merciful, I have to be merciful. If God is slow to anger, I have to, if God, etc., etc. Okay? Which is, to me, is a beautiful theological idea. What? Yeah. Okay. No, but I will create a space for God. You know, and especially when we talk about the fact, you know, according to the Midrash, ראתה שפחה על המים, מה שלא ראה יחזקאל בן בוזי. That everybody at that time of splitting of the Red Sea had a prophecy, or they were able to see prophecy. So if they had prophecy, they can see that there was a temple. Okay, that's just technical just to satisfy your okay. I have a different question, and this is a little bit longer discussion. I wanted you to take a look on page 80 in kind of like in the beginning, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 line kind of. שמעו עמים ירגזו ונחיל אחזו יושבי פלשת, אז נבהלו אלופי אדום, אלי מואב יחזה מורד, נמוגו כל יושבי כנען. There's a mentioning of all those, let's call our neighbors. Okay, the people in Canaan, the people of Pleshet, the people of whatever, Edom, whatever, Moab, all the neighbors. Okay, who cares? Why this is important? Let me take it another step. Okay, don't mess with us. Okay. Okay, let me make it, let me walk you through something. So before Shirat Hayam is taken from Parashat Beshalach, right? Parashat Beshalach, the beginning of the Torah reading of that Parsha starts with what? Vahi Beshalach Paro et Ha'am, when the people were sent from Egypt, they left Egypt, ולא נחם אלוהים דרך ארץ פלישתים כי קרוב הוא, כי אמר אלוהים פן ינחם העם בראותם מלחמה ושבו מצרימה. God says those people cannot handle war. They just came out of slavery of 210 years. They are incapable of dealing with war. Therefore, I'm not going to take them in the direct short route, but rather we're going to go kind of like behind the longer route. ויסב אלוהים את העם דרך המדבר ים סוף, החמושים עלו בני ישראל ממצרים. And then comes the story, then Paro say, ויהפך לבב פרעה, and Pharaoh changed his mind and he started chasing them and they're stuck between the Egyptians and the water. They don't want to do. Okay, we know the story, we know the drama. My question is this. From the very beginning, the plan was to have war, right? When the Israelites, they come to Eretz Israel, they'll have to fight. Now remember, we got stuck in the desert for 40 years. That was not the original plan. That because of a sin, the sin of the spies. That was not part of the plan. The plan was to get to Israel very quickly. How long does it take to walk from Egypt to Israel? It's not that far. What? Exactly, the Sinai Desert, and that's it, you're there. It's not a big deal. A couple of months. Okay, that was the original plan. We got stuck there for 40 years. Fine. So the plan was to fight from the very beginning. What we know about the 7 nations in Israel that lived in Israel. Not only that, as they get close, what happened? Moshe sent those spies. Okay, they screwed up. I get it. They screwed up, and because of that, we got stuck in the desert for 40 years. But he knew, everybody knew that there's people living in Israel, the 7 nations, and we have to figure out how to conquer the land. This is why Moshe sent those spies in the beginning, in the first place, right? It's the same thing. Plishtim were living in the land. It's just like you come through the land of the Plishtim into Eretz Israel. That was the whole thing. You come from the south, basically. Right? The Plishtim were in Gaza. That was the Plishtim. I know. But this idea, if you come from Egypt, you go through Gaza, right into Eretz Israel. That was the plan. Who was in Gaza? The Plishtim. That's the shortest. Okay, but this is how you enter from that side. So the point is, you have to deal with war anyway. Not only that, in the same parsha, we learn about what? Amalek. Amalek comes and attacks us in the desert. Okay, that's a chutzpah, fine. And this is why this coming Shabbat, we're going to read Parashat Zachor, that we have to remember what Amalek did to us. Okay, that's all fine and dandy. But when Amalek attacks Bnei Israel in the desert, what happens? God says, you guys, stand still, I'll take care of it. No. He said, go fight. Choose men and go fight. So I don't get it. When Amalek attacks us, you can go and, you should go and fight. You want to go into Eretz Israel, go and fight. All of a sudden, though, in the beginning, God says, no. They can't handle fight. Makes no sense. It happened in the same week. All of a sudden, they became like strong and brave and like courageous, and something else is going on over there. Okay, here's my theory. You can agree or disagree. And I think that kind of a little bit the proof for that theory is right here in the fact that all those nations or the neighbors are mentioned. What is going on? Today, in order for news to travel, what do? You take out your cell phone, you take a little video, that's it, it's viral. Everything is instant, right? It's not a problem. TV, whatever, media, chuck. What happens in Gaza, you see it right here in America, not a problem. Okay, back then, before cell phones, before media, how did news travel? You had to witness it. Somebody had to witness it. Once they witness it, they can tell their friends, their families, blah, 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 and the whole world is going to know eventually. But somebody's got to witness. What happened with the Egyptians? No. At the time of the splitting of the Red Sea, they died. No witnesses. No witnesses, right? The water, they're all drowned, right? It says that. מרכבות פרעה וכלו ירה בים ובחר שלישיו טובעו בים סוף תהומות יחסיומו ירדו במצולות כמו אבן. They drowned in the depth of the sea. That's it. No witnesses. No witnesses. How this miracle is going to be publicized? It's not. Nobody's going to believe me. I'm going to say that I went to the ocean and I parted the ocean. Somebody's going to believe me? No. I need witnesses. Maybe if I showed a video, that's one thing. But they couldn't show a video. You needed witnesses. Who are the witnesses? Paro is dead. He drowned. How did he? מרכבות פרעה וכלו ירה בים ובבחר שלישיו טובעו בים סוף. טובעו בים סוף. From the word tava, drowned, done. All those who came, right. We don't know if Paro was with the army or not, but anyone who was there with the army chasing the Israelites, they were gone. So no witnesses. Right. Anyone is going to believe them? No. You need witnesses. So guess what? think about now geographically. I should have had a map. Think about it geographically. That particular point, like the Yam Suf, you have Egypt, you have Israel, you have Gaza, you have Ammon, Moab, you have everybody. You have everybody. Look, what's that point in, there's a point like in California, Nevada, and they all come together, all those states. Here's the same, that's exactly the same situation. So they were all there. That's the splitting of the Yam Suf. You needed witnesses. You needed all those nations to be there and witness that miracle. Because they go and they tell the story, they tell the news, and that creates the effect that we want. The land. You want to scare them. You want them to be worried. Oh my gosh, this is like these people are coming with a mighty God and they're going to crush us. So they have to be witnesses. And I think that this is why it was part of the godly plan all along, from the very beginning, to take them that route, that way, the long way, because the splitting of the Red Sea had to happen in that particular location. So perhaps God is talking to Moshe over there. Ki amar Elohim, pen yinachem ha'am. Maybe. Or maybe this is part of the narrative or whatever. But I think it was part of the godly plan all along. The Bnei Yisrael are going to take that route, going to come to the Yam Suf, to the Red Sea. They'll have to split in such a way that's going to create such an impact in the entire neighborhood. So everybody will witness that. It was like a tsunami. The ground for the next. Correct. Exactly. That's an allegory. It's on the authorities already dealt with that, and they said we don't have Amalekites today. We don't really know who is what. We don't know who they are. The concept is still there, and we can definitely we make it relevant, right? But we don't know those people. We don't know who they are. Okay, so this is about Shirat Hayam, which takes us, yes. Yeah. It's not 4 or 5, it's 4 or 5 nations. Okay. A tsunami is tsunami. You know, you see that the water was parted. Think about the ocean splitting. Okay, think about it. This is like, you see that, you see a group of like 2 million people go through that, and then it closes up. You can interpret that like, you know, whether it was a natural occurrence or God behind it or whatever you want. But that was a powerful sight. And you see those people, there's some power behind them. Okay? Correct. Amalek, this is why we don't have such a instruction against anyone else except for Amalek. Amalek in the desert. The whole area. Here's my theory about Amalek. Yeah, the ancient Amalek, here's like it comes like also in a theological aspect. I mean, we can go into the Pesukim and see where exactly there were Be'eretz Achori and this and whatever. But basically, Amalek lived in the desert. It was a tribe of pirates, but in the desert. And how do they make a living? Look at the story of Amalek. They didn't kill anyone. Vayish mimenu shevi. They kidnap. And what they want is ransom. I get it. This is how they make a living. They kidnap people. And who do they kidnap? The weak, women, children, and the elderly. They come from behind and they take women, children, and elderly. And then let's start negotiating. Ransom, pay me. That is Amalek. And this is why I think the Torah is so adamant about that. Because that act is completely in complete contradiction to what everything Judaism is all about. We believe that all men, all human beings were created in the image of God. So I get it. Sometimes there is a dispute, so there is war. Okay, I'm a soldier, you're a soldier, we fight because we disagree over whatever. You're a human being, I'm a human being. We have a dispute. I get it. But I don't want anything from you except for the fact that I want to take away from you your godly image. I believe, I am Amalek, believe that I'm superior to you. This is why I have the right to take you in captivity. This we cannot accept. And this is why Timche et zecher Amalek mitachat hashamayim. We are commanded to wipe out the Amalek, but it's not only Amalek as people, it's the ideology of Amalek. I'm not gonna go there. I'm not gonna. But this is the idea. This is the idea. We cannot accept that concept in our world. Okay.
So why does it keep going on? We've been trying to wipe them out all these years.
Actually, the last recorded. Correct.
And now we have Hamas, Hezbollah, all these awful people.
Yeah. So the point is that you know, we know that it's always going to be challenging for the Jewish people throughout history. It's always until the Messianic times. It's going to be always challenging. That's our destiny. Okay. So this is about Shirat Hayam. There's one interesting it doesn't mention Amalek because Amalek is not one of the neighbors. They were pirates. They live in the desert. They run. They. Okay.
They need a job.
Yeah. They need a life. Okay. What's interesting is that after at the end of Shirat Hayam, we have several psukim from the book of Ovadia, from the book of Zechariah, and then finally, it's the book of Deuteronomy that ends that Shirat Hayam. where this is coming from, why this is happening. So as I said in the very beginning, there's the fact that the Midrash will say the Yashir in the future alludes to the Messianic times. So what they felt is that it's appropriate to end Shirat Hayam with a relevant message. Here we go. Now there's a whole progression. So look at you see that like it's written with spaces. Look below that. There's like where the text starts to be without spaces. Hashem yimloch le'olam va'ed. There's that pasuk is being repeated, right? That why we spoke about it. If we remember in Tehillim, we spoke about the Psalm 150, and what did we say about Psalm 50? That the last verse is being repeated. Why? Because we call it that's the final, that's the finale, that's the cadenza in music, right? You repeat. If you remember, think about any melody for Adon Olam, for example. What happens in the melody? At the end, the last line, Metim Michael, I'm sorry, in Yigdal, or Ve'im Ruchi Geviati Hashem li velo ira in Adon Olam, is always going to be repeated in any melody. Why? Because that's the style, right? When you hear a music, you hear a song, right? And there's a stanza and there's a refrain later on. When you hear the refrain twice, you know it's the end of the song. It's going to come, right? So there's something about songs that's a structure. So what happened? Shirat Hayam, Shirat Hayam. Pesukei Dezimra ended originally, remember, with Psalm 150. All those additions were added later. So if I already had an ending, and then I'm adding material, then the ending is not really an ending. I have to create another ending, right? So this is why they did the same technique here. And Hashem Yimloch Le'olam Va'ed, that pasuk is being repeated to duplicate the technique of what they did in Psalm 150. So far, so good? Good. Now, then what we have in parentheses, not everybody say that, Hashem Malchutei Kayem La'alam U'Lalmei Almaya. That's the Aramaic translation of that pasuk. That's the Tergum Yonatan. Why do we have that? Because we want of Shirat Hayam. I get it. I learned. I said it. I learned that. What do I take with me? What is the message that I take with me? Hashem Yimloch Le'olam. God will reign forever, right? Okay, I want to make sure that everybody understands that. At that time, not everybody spoke Hebrew. Not everybody understood. Right? That's the classic explanation, one of them at least, why Kaddish is in Aramaic. The spoken language was Aramaic. If you want to make sure that everybody understands what you're saying, you better say it in the local language, in the language that everybody understands. Therefore, if this is the kind of the message of that is Hashem Yimloch Le'olam Va'ed, you better translate it. Okay, so fine. So we understand why that pasuk is there. Okay, then we go into the kind of this is a recap, but this is a recap from the Torah. Fine, of the whole thing, because Paro came with his army, and then they drowned, and the Israelites went through. It's kind of like when you have like a whole essay or whole thing or whatever, at the end say, in conclusion, summary. It's like, one last sentence. So that's that. That's fine. I get it. Fine. Then, where you see those 4 dots, this is where we go a little bit off script. What does it mean? I have a pasuk from Tehillim. I have a pasuk from the book of Ovadia, pasuk from the book of Zechariah, right? 1 psalm and 2 prophets. Why? because I want to make it relevant and I want to connect it to this idea of redemption. Redemption. Future. So Hashem Yimloch Leolam Va'ed connects me to the pasuk from Tehillim. Ki Hashem Amlucha U'Moshel Bagoyim. For the sovereignty is Hashem's, and he rules over nations. It's the same idea. That's the kind of Hashem Yimloch Leolam. God will reign forever, and not only over everybody. Okay, so that pasuk makes the connection. It's already moving from the past into Tehillim, which is a description which can apply to past, future, present, anything. Moving on. And from there, I can go into messianic times, to redemption, to the future. That's what the prophets are talking about. How that concept of God ruling over the entire world, how that's going to happen, or when that's going to happen, form this is going to happen. Well, Ovadia says the following: the Savior will ascend Mount Zion to judge Esau's mountain, and the kingdom will be Hashem's. One description. And Zechariah has a different. And he said, then Hashem will be king all over the world. On that day, Hashem will be one and his name will be one. And we know that pasuk because that is the concluding pasuk from Aleinu. So what is going on here? There's several practices. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot the last pasuk, the most important one. And so we have this description about God's sovereignty, God ruling all over the world. We moved from the past into the future, to messianic times. We made all those connections. Great. Now what? We need kind of a text proof. With Toratcha Katuv Lemor, and in your Torah it says, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. God is one. That's the message. So it has the thematic progression that we understand, but there's also something else a little more technical that's going on over there. If you remember, when we studied Torah, we said that there's a division or a structure of three parts: Torah, we have Mishnah, and we have Talmud. Or the original form that the Mishnah is talking about, that a person, when they learn Tanakh, they're supposed to what? Learn Chumash, Nevi'im, and Ketuvim. The three parts of the Bible: the Mosaic books, the prophets, and writings. Well, guess what? What did we do here? We have Torah, we have writings that sound, then we have prophets. And what is the rule when you have that? And by the way, we're going to see that kind of on steroids on Rosh Hashanah davening. You finish the series always with Torah pasuk from the Torah. So you have Torah, Nevi'im, Ketuvim, and finish with the Torah. Okay, that's the structure. And by the way, the entire Malchuyot, Zichronot, and Shofarot, the three middle brachot of the Musaf for Rosh Hashanah, where we quote so many verses, that's exactly the same structure. You're going to see Torah, writings, prophets, and finish with Torah. Okay, so we have also a technical structure here. Now, according to some, you see that that pasuk over Toratcha Katuv Lemor Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad at the very bottom of the page, on page 80. It's smaller font and in parentheses. Why? Because not everybody say that. Why? Because according to many authorities, it's here by mistake. Where do we see all that progression of verses with the Shema Israel? In the Malchuyot section in Rosh Hashanah. So according to many authorities, what happened was when publishers actually did that, so they just like automatically, oh, like that section go together. So they copied also that verse. Okay, if you look at my Siddur, I use a Siddur that is based on old Ashkenaz German Nusach. It's not there. So that verse is not there. And it makes sense that the publishers actually made all that connection because that's the way they're used to it. It's like that's in the Rosh Hashanah davening. You will see, כי להשם המלוכה מושל בגויים ועלו מושעים בארץ משפט את הריסה, באתר השם המלוכה והיה שם לכל הארץ ביום אחד ושמו אחד, ובתורתך כתוב לאמור שמע ישראל השם אלוקינו השם אחד. This is where I take a breath. So it's kind of they copy it as a whole unit, even though it's not necessarily, but it's there. So the publishers today kind of like, what are you going to take it out? It's already been there. For so many people say it. It's like 200 years or whatever. What are you going to do? So we put it in parentheses. We put it in smaller font. We kind of like whatever. You do whatever you want. We're not going to take it out, but it probably doesn't belong there. No, when you compare it to old Sidurim, and you'll see that in some of the Sidurim it's not there. Again, listen, but the justification, that's okay. The justification is there to do that as well. So what's the problem? Like, it's a structure, there's thematic. So I explained the whole thing. There is legitimate justification to recite that. Okay, you can go wrong either way. Don't worry. Okay, which takes us to Ishtabach. I really need to finish this unit. Okay, so Ishtabach is on page 82. Ishtabach is the concluding bracha. I said it many times that unit is well defined. We have a bracha in the beginning, which is Baruch Shamar, and we have a bracha at the end, which is Ishtabach. Again, it's the practice to have rabbinic text on the two sides and biblical text in the middle. This is the Baruch Shamar and the Ishtabach, which are rabbinic text, and then we have all the Tehillim and whatever we have. This is all biblical. So that's something that we see all over Siddur. Fine. Couple of things about the Ishtabach. If you remember, when we talk about Baruch Shamar, the opening bracha, we said that there are 15 expressions of praise. And those expressions are parallel to the 15 ascents that we have in Tehillim. We have 15 chapters that are Shir HaMa'alot. That these are Psalms 120 to 134. Okay? שיר המעלות אשא עיני אל ההרים, שיר המעלות ממעמקים קראתיך השם, שיר המעלות שמחתי באומרים לי, whatever, all those. There's a lot of explanations for that. There's a lot of like mystical games with that. According to one of the ideas, it's parallel to the. There's a lot of ideas behind that. Okay, this is all good, fine and dandy. But what we have also here in the Ishtabach. שיר ושבחה, הלל וזמרה, עוז וממשלה, נצח גדולה, גבורה, תהילה ותפארת, קדושה ומלכות. Boom. 15. 15 forms of, or praises, or call it, or whatever, a way in which we praise God. So here's one connection between the opening bracha and the closing bracha. The idea of the 15 steps that led to Beit HaMikdash, or it leads to the Azara, is symbolized by, we kind of read all this unit of Pesukei Dezimra, and now we are on a higher place spiritually. We can actually enter the holy space. That is the purpose of Pesukei Dezimra. It's a prep. Yeah? Okay? So then, what we're saying, bishvachot uvizmirot, where is it? Towards the end. I'm sorry, in the Baruch She'amar, in the opening, right? In the opening, in the Baruch She'amar, bishvachot uvizmirot, נגדלך ונשבחך ונפארך ונזכיר שמך ונמליכך מלכנו אלוהינו, right? We shall exalt you, praise you, glorify you, mention your name, and proclaim your reign, our King, our God. And here, when we do that, we said, we've done it. We've done it. How did we do it? Through the focus on Tehillim. Through the focus on those verses of praise that we have done, that we have recited here the whole time, we're now more aware of how great you are, God. And that is the preparation that we needed so we can continue and entering the holy space. That's what you do after you take all the stairs and you start getting into, okay, this is why now we're getting into, we have a Kaddish, which separates that unit. We said the Kaddish separates units. Go into the next unit, which is the Shema. The Shema requires what? A different level of kavanah, and therefore we're gonna introduce it with a Baruch Hu. The Baruch Hu requires a minyan. It requires a totally different level of attention, of awareness, okay, of importance. This is why we need a minyan. This is why, Pesukei Dezimra can be led by a child. In Sephardic tradition, nobody leads Pesukei Dezimra. Everybody sing it together. All the hallelujahs, everybody sing it together. So we're switching gears big time. Okay, fine. One idea, if the Yishtabach is the end of the unit, so it makes sense that whoever leads that next unit is going to take over when? After Yishtabach, right? What? Makes sense? What is our practice? Nope. Practice is before Yishtabach. Why? Because up until now, up until Yishtabach, what happens? Okay, it's a recitation of Psalms mainly, recitation of Psukim. What's the idea behind it? Preparation. We said it's a much lower level of, in terms of our, I don't want to say kavanah, but in terms of like the halachic status of the tefillah. right? We don't need a minyan. We can have children leading it, whatever. You can see that we are, throughout history, we're messing with the order of things. We're adding stuff. We're taking out, whatever. There's more flexibility. So that means that the idea of hefsek, interruption, I'm trying to be PC here, tolerable. Of course, nobody would ever speak in shul. Never happens. I've heard in some places they talk. And if so, no, I'm saying like in general. So you can't do that. It's a absolutely no. Once you switch gears and you go already to the Shema section or the Amidah section. Here, we're a little bit more. Okay. Now, what happens? What happens usually in a place where, you know, you got somebody's going to lead? If there's no assigned chazan, what happens? Hey, Moshe, you go. No, I'm tired. You go. No, I can't. Like, you know, it's like, whatever. Becomes like a whole thing, right? That's an interruption. Can we have that after Ishtabach? Can't have that. So therefore, whoever going to lead the next unit, i.e. the Shema unit, is already doing Ishtabach, because all the logistics and talking, God forbid, and interruptions or whatever that is, all that stuff should be done. Pesukei Dezimra. So we do it before the end of the unit, before Ishtabach, because once we hit Ishtabach, we need to go without any interruptions. Classic example, for example, that we have in the 6 a.m. Maxine knows about that because David is our Gabbai at the 6 a.m. So it's going to be a big problem for us starting next week. It's too early to put on talis and tefillin already. We start at 6 a.m. Sunrise is going to be later. So, yeah. So many times what we do is we will have Birkot HaShachar and all those units, including Pesukei Dezimra, even if needed, before the time, because that stuff you can say already from Alot HaShachar, from dawn. And then we're now like whatever 10 minutes after, and usually that solves the problem. And then we stop, we put on talit and tefillin when it's the proper time, and then we go into Ishtabach, and from there into the. So it's a classic example of interruption. You stop what you do and you put on talit and tefillin. Well, you have no choice. What are you going to do? You can't put it too early. So the Kaddish is interesting. The Kaddish is like, it's kind of like, it's never clear it belongs to the previous unit or to the next unit. It's a separator. Where are you going to put it? It belongs to this one or this one? Right. And the Kaddish. I get it. It's a legitimate question, but it's even better. It's even better to do that before, because there is some sort of a connection between a bracha and a Kaddish that requires a minyan. That's already like I'm taking it up a notch. It's a stronger connection, as throughout Pesukei Dezimra, it's just recitation of Tehillim, mainly. No, I can recite Ishtabach on my own, but the Kaddish I need. Yeah. So anyway, so the practice has become, you start before Yishtabach. By the way, on Shabbat, we do something similar, right? Shabbat, where do I start? I mean, most people are not there yet. That time, it's too early. I start Shacharit and Shochen Ad Marom Vekadosh Shemo, which is part of Nishmat. Nishmat is that section, we spoke about that comes between Shirat Hayam and Yishtabach. It's called Birkat Hashir. Nishmat, it's that long section that we add on Shabbat and holidays. So I start already there, similarly to what because Yishtabach is already, we do not interrupt between Yishtabach and going into the Kaddish and the Baruch Hu. We create a flow of the service over there. Okay, somebody had a question? No. Yes? No. Okay, I think we should stop here because next time we're going to start with the Baruch Hu, right going into the Shema unit. Okay, I don't want to start with a new unit after 12. So thank you, everybody. Next week, same time, same place.